Is one of your favorite things curling up with a good book on a crisp fall day? Well, if so, stay tuned to see how we make this book page glitter tumbler perfect for all you bookworms out there. Hi, I'm Jessica with JC Creative, and if this is your first time here, thanks for joining us. If you are a fellow creative who loves DIY projects, anything from home decor, tumblers, teas, you are in the right place, and we are so glad you're here. And I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel below and be sure to ring the little bell to be notified of new tutorials I drop each and every Monday. So if you've been following along the last few weeks, you know that we're in a fall series, and the first thing we did, we made a really beautiful wreath for our front door, and then we made a nice, easy, inexpensive welcome sign for our front porch. And if you missed either of those videos, you can check them out here. And today we're going to make our second tumbler in this series, and this one is inspired by one of my favorite things to do on a crisp day when I have time, which is curl up with a blanket and a good book. So that is where this tumbler is inspired by, and today we're going to work on making one of these paper mache book page tumblers. But before we get started, I do want to ask that you watch all the way to the end so you can find out how you can win this decal for free. So if we're ready, let's get going. Okay, so the supplies we're going to need for today's project, you're going to need a plain painted tumbler. Mine's painted white. I'm going to do a 30 ounce today. We're going to need some Modge Podge, which I hate Modge Podge, but we're going to use some Modge Podge today. We need a little cup to put it in, a brush. You're going to need just a drop of a brown or a yellow, like alcohol ink. I have a decal that's going to go on our cup, and then some pages out of your favorite story or novel. So this cup is going to be for an avid mystery reader, and so I printed some pages from one of the most famous mystery novels, and we're going to use that to help decorate this cup. Then we will, of course, we'll use our Part A and B epoxy. I have Pro Marine. I'm going to use just a tiny bit of glitter. This is not a glitter cup, but I am going to use some of our translucent frosty glitter on the top coat to give it a little bit of shimmer. So that's the supplies we're going to need today, plus your rubber gloves, any of your safety equipment, all that good stuff when you're working with epoxy. So that is our supply list, and we will get started. So this cup really is, basically we're going to, the first step is going to be to take the pages you've printed. You can scan real pages. You know, this was a PDF I found on the internet. And we're going to rip these up to become pieces that we can then paper mache basically onto our cup to become the background of our cup. So there's really no rhyme or reason on how I'm going to do this. I mean, I'm kind of like, I know I might want the title of the book here. I'm going to get rid of some of the extra white. I don't want any straight edges. I do want them all to be soft edges. So I'm just going to rip them up a bit. And what I'm going to do is make a big old pile of these here. So this is step one. We are going to rip up our book, and we might want this little, maybe this little title becomes a piece that we Modge Podge on there. And, we're just getting rid of a lot of the white space and kind of discarding that. So I am going to, what I printed out, because I wasn't exactly sure how many we would need, I printed out 1, 2, 3, 4 solid pages with text, plus this little title page, which I'm not sure if I'll use that or not. So I am going to go ahead and fast forward me ripping up the rest of these, and then I'll be back and we'll start Modge Podging these onto our cup. Okay, so we have all of our paper ripped up. That's got a big pile. I'm not going to need, I'm sure, well, I think I'm not going to need nearly as much as here. I left the title page because I'm not sure if I'm going to use that, but if I do, I'm going to strategically rip it and place it somewhere on top so I can see it. I am going to grab, let's see, I'm going to grab a ball. Sorry, didn't mean to move the camera. So I can have a handle. We're playing around with our Mod Podge here. Okay, so next step is Mod Podge. I'm not a big Mod Podge fan, but this really is probably the best option here for doing this. I get these little bottles at the Dollar Tree. I have bigger ones from Michael's, Hobby Lobby, whatever. I'm not worried about it being dishwasher safe or anything like that because this is definitely going under epoxy. So I'm going to put some Modge Podge in my little cup here. Okay. So here's what the alcohol ink is for. So I don't want my paper to look completely brand new and sparkling white, but I didn't want to mess with, like, you know, adding tea water to it or burning the edges or anything. So I've never done this before. So we're going to try it together. I'm going to take a few drips of my alcohol ink and I'm just going to tint our glue just a little bit like browny yellow, really light, because normally it dries clear, but I'm thinking if I put a little bit of alcohol ink in it, it might not. So I put 2 little drops in there to give, which isn't doing much here. You can see it's really not tinted. I mean, I can see it a little bit, but not like I was hoping for. And I'm thinking maybe this like mustardy yellow might even be a better option here. So I'm getting low on this stuff here. So let's see. Can you see the cup? So it's tinting a little bit. So I'm going to add some more color. I want my glue to have a yellowy tint because I'm thinking if my glue has a yellow tint, it should dry that way, right? And then we'll put a couple more drops of brown in. And then that might make our paper look a little aged as it's drying. I mean, I'm just thinking outside the box. This may be a big old epic fail and it might not work at all, but if it works, woohoo, we don't have to use another step to dye our paper. I just want it to dry with a little aged look to it, and this would be a super simple way. So if this works, then we'll just call this a happy accident. Just wanted to give it a little bit of an aged look, and I think if the glue is dyed that color, even if just a little off-white tint, I think that it should carry over into the paper as it dries. We're going to find out together. And it's honestly thinning out our Modge Podge a little bit, which will make this project a little easier. Okay, so now my Modge Podge has a little bit of a tint to it. I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that works. I just wanted to take the edge off the white. I just didn't want it to be super duper white, so we're going to give it a whirl. Okay, so I do want to make sure, I am going to put a decal on this. It's going to go over the top. I just want to make sure that the majority of my words are reading this, like I'm holding my cup this way someone's going to drink out of it. So I want to make sure that my words are going to hold that way. So I am going to start with a random piece. It doesn't really matter. This isn't meant to actually be read. I mean, if someone took the time to actually pay attention to what I'm sticking on here, then they'll see that it is a murder mystery. And I'm just gonna brush this on out here, trying to avoid wrinkling it. But if I do wrinkle it, oh well. But see how that glue, it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work, guys. Yay, yay, yay. You can see the Modge Podge is just aging the paper just a little bit. And honestly, I probably could even put more color in here if I wanted. If you get creases and bends, it's really not that big a deal. I'm going to try not to get that many only because I want to make sure I don't make my job harder when I put on the epoxy. But I don't know if you can see that really well, but if you can see just a little bit of tint that's giving that paper against that white. So it's just changing it just enough. So then I'm going to come in with another piece of paper here. I'm just going to put it in here. And these are going to overlap. I mean, that's just what's going to happen. That's part of the whole thing. Is this is going to be just a layered look here. Okay. Turn it around now and grab the thing. So now I just got to remember, turning it around, that I need to put my words on upside down now that I'm working in this direction. So I'm going back in, just smoothing some of these wrinkles, making sure I got this all wet. We're going to put several layers of this Mod Podge on probably once we get it all glued down, because I do want to make sure it's sealed pretty well with Mod Podge before I put on any epoxy. So I'm honestly not even, I'm just grabbing paper. I don't know what's what or what I got here. It's all ripped up. All the words are ripped up. So I'm just randomly putting it on here. So I'm going to keep doing this all the way around my cup. The top, the bottom, you know, all the way around until I get this cup fully covered. And then I'll come back. I'll fast forward it as I keep going, because I think you got the gist of it. So we're just ripping our paper, and then we're just sticking on, you know, random pieces. I want to make sure none of the white is showing through. So I am going to kind of, you know, like here, I got a big gap here. I'm going to try to fit some in here that fits well. Covers it over. Oh, there's no sticky all the way over here. I haven't made it that far yet. Put that in. And then I'm just going to I want to go back and get that whole piece wet. Make sure it's Modge Podge. Make sure the other ones are Modge Podge. So I'm just going to keep going, doing this until I have this cup completely covered in my pages. So I will come back. I got a piece ripped off on me. I'm going to fast forward through this, and then we'll be right back when I got it covered a little further. Okay, so I have my cup completely covered. The top edge, where that's overhanging, we're gonna clean that up once this all dries. So I've pretty much used all of my Modge Podge mix here. I don't want to get it too wet because paper does kind of like, you know, it will start to like, the ink will start to rub off and the words will get blurry or whatever. So I'm going to let this first coat dry. Then I'm going to put, excuse me, sorry, at least one more coat of Mod Podge on here, and then probably a clear coat, a spray clear coat. So I'm going to let this dry, probably trim. We'll trim off the edge once that's dry. I'm going to put a second coat of Modge Podge on. Well, how about this? I'll let this dry. I'll put the second coat of Modge Podge on. We'll come back. I'll show you how I trim that, and then I'll decide if I need a clear coat or if it's ready for epoxy. So I'm just going to make sure I've used all of my mix here and look for any spots that are white, because they stand out now because I've been using this tinted Modge Podge, which actually, it's hard, I don't know if you guys can see, but it looks like my pages are not brand new. Like they're definitely kind of tinted just a little, like a book would be that's been sitting on the shelf. And since this is a very old book, I would think it would be on the shelf for a while. So I'm going to put this on the rack, let this dry. I'll put a second coat on, then I'll come back, show you how I'm going to trim that edge, and then we'll decide if we want to clear coat it or go ahead and get our epoxy on there. So be back soon. Okay, so our tumbler is completely dry. Now I've put 2 solid thick coats of Modge Podge on here. I only put color in that first thing, which gave my paper a little bit of the older feel, so it doesn't look so brand new. But before I epoxy, I want to trim this off. And I was debating if I was going to use an X-Acto to do that, which I can. I'm very good with an X-Acto, so I probably could go around here and just, you know, trim this off. But I think I'm actually going to take my little teeny shears here, and I'm going to see if it would be a little easier to just trim right along that edge. And I'm literally just putting the blade on the rim of the metal. This probably wouldn't work with a big pair of scissors. Like, you probably really need a little teeny pair of shears to do this. These are actually sewing. These are ones for sewing, but I have several pair. And then there's a couple spots where I just got some paper right here, right on the edge. I'm just gonna clean that off. Before I put epoxy on it. So now this is ready for our turner, and we are going to put our first coat of epoxy on. Okay, so before I can epoxy, I gotta get this on my turner, and everyone's always asking me about my turner. So my turner I had custom made by Chaz and Tracy Crafting Solutions, and there's a link to them in my favorite supplies. So you just take your little vise here that they come with, which expands to fit in multiple sizes, multiple size cups. Just get him on there. There we go. Make sure he's level. If he's not, I just loosen this up a bit. Oh, wrong way. That way, lefty loosey. I'm just going to loosen it a bit and adjust it and tighten it back down. Make sure it's level. Okay, so I am ready to go. So for those of you who watched my other videos, and if you haven't, you should jump over and watch a few. You know how I do my epoxy, but for those of you who haven't, so I use Pro Marine Epoxy in AB mix, so it's going to be equal parts A and B. I start by warming up part A to a thin consistency. Then I add in my part B. I stir till clear, and then it's ready for my cup. So I'm going to fast forward as I do all that mixing and stuff. So equal parts A and B. Warm up A in my silicone bowl here. I use a little silicone bowl. I'm going to warm up A, add B, and then it'll be ready, then stir till clear. So I'm going to fast forward that, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I have my epoxy all mixed, nice and clear. So I am going to add, which I don't always do this, but I am going to add a little bit of our Frosty Snow white and iridescent glitter to this batch here. Just a little. I just want this cup to have a little bit of shimmer. And I'm just going to put a little bit in the glitter on this layer, and then the other layer. This will get another layer of glitter. I'm sorry. Another layer of epoxy after this. We're going to do this one, our decals, and then a top coat. It should be good. And I made a big batch because some stuff I'm going to use this for behind us too. So I'm going to flip on our turner here. Now, the second part of how I do my epoxy is I put on a thin layer, then I hit it with my torch, and then I kind of flood coat it after that. So this first coat, I'm just trying to get my cup wet. I'm going to spread this out really thin on my cup. And you can feel it when you're running your fingers over it. You should be able to feel where there is epoxy and where there's not. Your fingers kind of stop because it's a dry spot. Don't forget your bottoms and your rims. Okay, so then I'm gonna take this, my torch, my little torch, and there's links to this in my supplies as well, all on my site. And I'm gonna hit this with my torch, just real quickly. And if you're up close, you can see it popping some bubbles here. There aren't a lot, but you can. And then I'm going to go back in and add another super thin, kind of a flood coat here. So your epoxy should level itself out. It shouldn't take a lot of work. If I need a little help, sometimes I nudge it along if I see a high spot, but normally it's self-leveling. So that's what I let the turner do its job. Is if you're, when I warm up that epoxy, it makes it thin, which helps it go over the cup nice and smooth. So I'm going to let this dry for 8 hours, and then we'll come back and put on our decal. Ooh, I almost forgot. I gotta hit it with my torch one more time. So I'm gonna hit this with a torch one more time. Pop any remaining bubbles here. Then we'll let it dry for 8 hours. There we go. Now we'll let it dry. And we'll be back. Okay, so our tumbler's all dry and perfectly smooth. So it's time to add our decal. So this is the decal we are going to be adding. And this SVG file will be available on the website. And you also will be able to buy a kit for this cup, which will include a bag of the Frosty White Glitter along with this decal pre-made. So I've watched this thing spin a bunch to find where I want to put it, and I'm gonna put my decal right here. I'm gonna put that there, and I'm gonna try bend that a little bit. I'm gonna take my little snips. Trim that so that goes down there. Trim that so that goes down there, and that should, I'm gonna put a slit in here and one in here. I might have to go in and fix the tops of those letters here in a sec. Let me get this on here. And I'm going to pull real gently because I know some of these letters in this word, the word chapter, aren't down all the way. Which is okay because I didn't push them down all the way on purpose because I want to be able to fix the little creases in them. So I am going to just pop the top of the T up here. It did grab just a little. I'm just going to take my X-Acto and smooth that out. And then I'm going to peel and I'm going to smooth that out. Taking that off. There is our decal. And then I do have a name to add on the back, so I'm going to add that. Wait. Stop it there. Make sure. Because this is for an actual order. There we go. There we go. So there is our cup with our decal added. So now we need to put on one more top coat of epoxy. So I'm going to grab the stuff and we're going to do that real quick. Okay, so I have my A&B Pro Marine. I got my silicone bowl. I got my stirring stick. I got my heat gun, and I've got my glitter that I'm going to use in the top coat. So same process as before. It's equal parts A and B. I'm going to pour in my A. I'm going to warm it up till it's thin like part B. Then I'm going to throw it into part B, stir until clear, add my glitter, and then we'll be ready to put on the cup. So I am going to fast forward through that, and I'll be back when we are ready to coat this one. Okay, so I have my epoxy all mixed, and I already put in some glitter, just a little bit to make it shimmer when I put the top coat on. I really like this to turn towards me, so I'm gonna flip that around so it's turning towards me. I did make a big batch. If you were paying attention, I made quite a big batch, and that's because I have a cup behind me who's gonna get this top coat as well. So how I do my epoxy, if you guys watch my other videos, is kind of like my bubble-free method. I put on a really thin coat, I hit it with a torch, and then I put on a top coat. So we just want to put a thin coat on the whole cup. Bottom too. Don't forget the bottom. And you should be able to feel it if it doesn't have epoxy on it. Your fingers will not run smooth. Okay, so then I'm going to take my torch. I'm going to hit it with a torch. Real quick, don't stay in one spot too long. It's just to pop some of those bubbles, little micro bubbles that you get. Okay. And then I'm going to try to put a real thin stream here. Flood coat. Your epoxy is self-leveling, so you shouldn't have to mess with it too much. I'm just looking for any high spots I might have. And we are going to let that turn for a good 8-12 hours overnight, probably, because it's evening time here. So we're going to let that turn overnight, and then we'll be back, and hopefully won't need another coat. So see you in a bit. So I got our tumbler off the turner and it looks great. The finish is good, the decal looks good, the wording looks good, and I really hope she loves it as much as I do. So if you want to recreate this exact tumbler, there is a link below where you can get the glitter and the vinyl kit on our website. Also below is a link to all of our favorite supplies, our vendors, where I get everything from epoxy to vinyl. I have it all listed there. My alcohol inks, anything that I use for my tumblers, I have in that convenient list for you guys. And then lastly, the last link below is for our Facebook group, and we would love for you to jump over there and join us. We share projects, we ask questions. It's a nice little community. We're really close, and I give away stuff every single week. So this week I'm giving away this decal. So if you want a chance to win it, be sure to click the link below, join our Facebook group, and you may be the lucky winner. So until next time, I will see you next Monday.